My big issue with the movie is Colonel Tom Parker, played by Tom Hanks. I think it's 80% the performance and 20% the writing. Because the decision to make Tom Parker he's essentially the main character in this movie, which is really weird. But I kind of understand where they were going for in this. Elvis now is a mythical person, is somebody that inspires the imagination to a certain extent. What do you hear about Elvis now besides the music? They died on a toilet, that he ate peanut butter and banana sandwiches, the weight gain, the gyrating, the dancing, the hair, everything that what makes him a interesting, dynamic, fascinating person. Like, my God, there are still people in Vegas who are Elvis impersonators to this very day, because there is such a deep love for Elvis, a person who died in 1970 and whose music still endures to this day. He is literally a mythological person at this point. So I get where they were coming from with this, because to make him just the main character would probably lessen the mythology of Elvis to a certain extent. But I really questioned the decision to have Colonel Tom Parker be the one telling the story, since he's the person that screwed over Elvis time and time again. There are reports that basically Colonel Tom Parker essentially took the earnings that Elvis had and took 60% for himself, essentially, and then continued to screw Elvis to the ground. There are people, and this movie actually argues this as well. There are people who feel that it is Tom Parker who killed Elvis to a certain extent. To make him the person telling the story, I think, was a baffling decision in this. Now, some of you will probably point out, well, Wiz, there is a such thing as unreliable narrator, a person who tells a story that is clearly embellishing and lying, and it's up to the audience to get where the embellishment is. It's kind of the fun of an unreliable narrator, to figure out exactly what's true and what's not. And I get that. But the movie isn't even consistent with that, unfortunately, because it's not an unreliable narrator movie. Because if it was, then you would see it through you would see the movie through the eyes of Tom Parker, which the movie does not do. What the most it does in this is that it narrates the movie where Tom Parker is trying to say how he's trying to control Elvis. Like the key examples are when he meets Priscilla for the first time, who will eventually become his wife. And the sort of disdain that he had, even though he couldn't control that situation. They rely on him as the narrator, and as a narrator, if a character is going to be the narrator, you would expect the movie to then base the entire movie around that person's perspective, which it doesn't. So not only is Colonel Tom Parker being the narrator a bad decision, it also is a decision that is not fully fleshed out, because they veer back and forth into standard biopic to perspective, and it hurts the movie in a critical way. Because if they wanted to do that, if they wanted to just keep it in the perspective of Tom Parker and just show how much of a manipulative person that he is, you could have done that. But someone at some point probably would have said, no one wants to watch a movie about Tom Parker. So they would have to add the Priscilla Presley piece. They would have to add the dynamics between his mother and his father. The little parts of it where he went to the army, a very small part of it, which I think could have been expanded a little bit more. Although that would have turned the movie into a 3-hour movie. And this was a pretty long movie as it is. So here's my thought on this. I think the best thing that they were going to do, that they should have done in this, to keep the mythology of Elvis as the main centerpiece of the movie, is to do what Citizen Kane did when it came to the main character. For those of you who haven't seen Citizen Kane, basically the movie is about one character who died in the beginning of the movie. And the movie is told through various different characters in a flashback. I think that would have worked. Like, I'm looking at the movie now, okay? And let's say, like, the first part of the movie is, like, there's a part of the movie where it's narrated by Tom Parker. And then when Priscilla Presley gets involved, then it's Priscilla Presley. And the new people that Elvis hired to revitalize his career, that they are narrators to a certain extent. And then just do it that way. And keep it as him as a mythological, just a fantastic person that we may never really know what he's really like, but it adds to the mystique of Elvis in this. And the direction they did, I think, was half-assed. They didn't commit to keeping Tom Parker as the narrator, which honestly is probably a good idea because of how bad the performance of Tom Hanks is in this. But I think principally for the way they structured the film was flawed in a way that it just did not work in that aspect. But I will say this, though. For all its faults, Elvis is an entertaining movie. It's 2.5 hours long. And I didn't feel like it dragged once. I really did not. It sounds strange. I enjoyed the movie I was watching. But as I was watching it, I could tell that there were deep flaws and some really questionable decisions in this movie. It should be... here's my feeling about this movie. I think the way that it was done, with Austin Butler's performance and Baz Luhrmann's direction, that this should be up there with Walk the Line, Ray, and Straight Outta Compton. Well, I'm not a fan of Straight Outta Compton, but, of those movies, of being really celebrated biopics with fantastic performances. Okay? It should be there, but it's not. It's just not. Like, Walk the Line and Ray, God, I would even say Straight Outta Compton are better movies than Elvis. And it's because of the structure of this movie and the fact that Tom Parker plays such a key, important role. It just kills the movie to a certain extent. Like, I'll put it this way. This, I hate ratings. But it's really the only way to really emphasize where I'm coming at. I think I'm Not There as a 5-star film. I think it's fantastic. Elvis was a 4.5. If you just had Austin Butler and the Baz Luhrmann direction and fixed the writing, the structure of the writing, and the performance of Tom Parker, this is a solid 4.5. Possibly a 5. Yeah. 4.5, I would say. I if I want to be generous, 4.5. It's a 3. That's how bad and how distracting Tom Hanks is in this movie. And there are many reasons why Tom Hanks' performance is so distracting. One's the accent. I just can't buy it. I just can't. Two is the way that he has no charisma in the role. He plays him as like a stereotypical Snidely Whiplash villain. 3 is the look. The way that the fat suit and the makeup looks on Tom Hanks. it is weird. I can't tell you how weird it is to watch Austin Butler embody Elvis to a point where I had to remind myself that's an actor playing Elvis. That's an actor playing Elvis. And then I look at Tom Hanks and go, why is Tom Hanks in a fat suit? Like, never once did I believe that Tom Hanks was playing a role. I just saw Tom Hanks in a fat suit. And it was just incredibly distracting. And it really harms this film to a big detriment. I will say this. I'm glad that this movie showed the importance of rhythm and blues and black music to Elvis in this. Without it being... How do I put this? There are a bunch of people nowadays that, one, think Elvis is overrated, which, okay, that's your opinion, but two, basically said that Elvis stole black music. That's how he became popular. And I think that's uncharitable and unfair. I think, honestly, my feeling is that he was greatly inspired by it. Did he do a few songs that were from black music and black R&B artists? Yes, he did. But I think he was much more inspired by it than it was a callous business cold decision that he stole it from black artists and screwed them to the ground because, haha, I am white and I am racist and I will steal from black men. No, I don't think that at all. I think it was, and I think the film interpreted it that way too, where it was more inspirational and something he deeply loved than something that he saw a cold, calculated decision and just stole from. So I think that's a good thing in this movie as well. So let me get to my final thoughts on Elvis. I said it in the spoilers. This is a 3-star movie, and I am recommending it, but I am also going to state how disappointing that is with this movie. Austin Butler gives, I think, one of the best performances in a musical biopic. I in a biopic, period. I will put it that way. I think he is outstanding in this movie. He embodies Elvis so well. And I'll say this again. There are points in this movie that I had to remind myself that I'm not actually watching Elvis. I'm watching an actor playing Elvis. And that is the highest compliment you can give an actor. He just nailed this role. And he is the highlight of this movie. I also want to point out that Baz Luhrmann's direction and his surprising amount of restraint in this movie to not go overly glitzy and bombastic was a good move. So I'm glad that he showed some self-restraint in this movie and decided to make Elvis the most bombastic and incredible thing in to watch in this movie. And it worked very well for Austin Butler in this. The negatives is squarely on Tom Hanks as Colonel Tom Parker in this. The writing of the character, it's either the writing or the acting, and I'm fairly certain it's the acting. The decisions that Tom Hanks made in this movie just baffled me to a certain extent, and it's almost to a point where I think he was just wildly miscast. When watching this movie, I just had the feeling that it was one of those things where Baz Luhrmann saw Austin Butler and said, I have to have him. And a suit basically said, fine, but we need a star in this movie. And they gave him Tom Hanks. This is what it makes me feel like is what happened in this. Because I don't see any other reason why someone would look at Tom Hanks and go, yes, he can play this role. I don't see it. I would almost... God, it's a bad performance. I think it's Hank's worst performance. It's that bad. It is so damn distracting in this movie. And it really hurt the film. Like I said in the spoiler part, I went from 4.5 to a 3 just because of how much Tom Hanks is in the movie, and B, how distracting he is, and see basically how important that character is in the movie. I thought it was a bad decision on the writing, and I thought it was a bad performance on Hanks in this part. So do I recommend Elvis? Yes. But I will say that the strengths of seeing Butler's performance outweighs slightly to seeing the very bad performance of Tom Hanks in this movie. I recommend it, but just slightly, and that's what makes this a disappointing experience. Because I was watching the movie and loving it until I saw Tom Parker, and Tom Parker is in most of the film. Yeah, I recommend it 3 stars, but beware, you're going to have to suffer through Tom Hanks in this movie to enjoy Austin Butler in this.